Welcome back to Club Nurse, everybody. My name is Colton Lord, your host. I have with me today Susan Davis, who I'm super excited to chat with. I actually met Susan at the health conference in Las Vegas in 2024, last year. So I'm super excited to jump into this, talk to you about RescueRN, and talk to you about what you do in the nursing world. But if you don't mind, Susan, just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your nursing background and how we ended up where we are today.
Yeah, sure. So what a crazy route it has been. I think you probably hear that with a lot of nurses, but where we are today is not necessarily where we thought we would be. So I came to nursing as a second slash third career later in my life. I actually started out at University of Illinois in veterinary medicine. So large animal medicine, I do raise cattle and horses. And so that was the route I was taking. But my life, pivoted in real time and I ended up in nursing school and came right out of nursing school into trauma because it was really the closest thing to animal medicine, right into ER trauma. So I did that, which I loved. The love of my life was trauma medicine. And from there, I did some open heart and I had a passion for all things kind of critical, crazy, and fast. And that has a certain hum to it. My brain seems to kick in and work better. So I ended up getting my EMT while I was working trauma and then my paramedic so I could do some flight. From there, I did again some little bit of open heart and then I transitioned into education. So I became the director of American Heart Association because I had three crazy teenagers, Colton, and it was really difficult to be a trauma nurse and a mom of three crazy teenagers. Both of my sons, by the way, who were trauma patients during that time frame. So yeah, little did I know I was going to be more than prepared for that. But from there, I switched. I was the director of American Heart Association for a large healthcare system, and I did that for a decade while I went back to school and got my bachelor's, my master's, and my doctorate. And in that time frame, I created my signature program called CodePRep, which kind of started the whole RescueRN story. And that's where I am today. I'm currently the resuscitation education manager for a healthcare system here in Florida, as well as the CEO and founder of RescueRN.
Amazing. Yeah, I didn't realize that you had worked on some doing some flight nursing as well. I'd seen that actually on your LinkedIn profile today. And I just had a flight nurse on the podcast maybe 2 days ago. Her episode's not out yet. By the time this comes out, it should actually have come out. But it was very interesting to talk to somebody who had done flight nursing. I guess I had never really spoken to a nurse who kind of went that route. Sounds like a very, very fulfilling, interesting, adrenaline rushing career path. And I'm sure that you learned some really amazing things doing that and some skills that you probably took with you forever. I'm sure you have some crazy stories about flight nursing.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely wild. It's really neat. I didn't do as much as most flight nurses because I did have those three insane kids at the
Yeah.
time. And so they were for sure. My mom and my daughter were certain I was going to die every single time I went. And so, and my sons were like, "Hey, high five, mom, that's awesome." So it ended up, and I hated being on call, Colton. I
Yeah.
hated being on call. I mean, like, come 1 minute before that call, you'd be ready to, maybe crack a cerveza, and they'd be like, "Psst, oh, nice try." Off you go. So
Yeah, through my conversation with her, I was like, I respect this so much, but this is not for me. And I think I knew that I never had the ambition to be a flight nurse, but I definitely respect it for sure. So I think that when I met you at health, I think we instantly kind of just connected as I think most nurses do. But then when you kind of even break it down into subspecialties, ER nurses, you just understand each other. You understand each other's experience, the things that you go through. And again, each specialty has their things that maybe others don't, fully understand. So I think that there's that camaraderie for sure in ER nursing. Again, kind of with the flight nursing, it's very fulfilling. There's a lot of things you witness, a lot of working, it's literally in the name, being a trauma nurse. So what did you see? Like what kind of hole or gap in healthcare did you see that, the light bulb kind of went off in your head that got you to want to start? Kind of explain to us exactly what Code Prep and Rescue RN, like what is that exactly and what inspired you to start that?
yeah, so it's a great question. So here we are. Put yourself into the emergency room, and if you're not in an emergency, like you said, definitely personalities find their way to different units in the hospital. So there we were. You kind of function always at that hum, and it's a way. I think certain people's brains just work better that at that kind of a pace, and some 100% want to run the other direction. It's just not their comfort zone. So it was my comfort zone, and I got better. So during those days, we would respond to inpatient codes because the ER would respond. We didn't have a formal rapid response team back then. And so whenever there was a code, there would be someone from the ICU would come, someone from the ER would come, and we'd end up wherever in the hospital, whether it be, radiology, CT, any unit, and we would get there. And when we got there, and I think there's probably not a nurse that will listen to this that hasn't had the same experience. We get there and it was an awkward, chaotic scene. A lot of people wanting and willing to help, but it wasn't really happening very smoothly. It was, it's chaotic, it's loud, and you can feel the fear and the discomfort in that room. So when I first started responding to the inpatient environment, I thought, what the heck is going on here? Like, is cardiac arrest new here?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
and it really just ultimately what got this whole thing going was I hated how I felt my colleagues, how they felt. I could feel that they were uncomfortable, and I could feel this hierarchy was so gross. I'd never left the ER. I've never worked on a unit before. So I only ever knew that environment. I thought patients were born with monitors. I
Yeah.
didn't know. So
Yeah.
when we get there and anyway, the vibes just concerned me. So I thought, you know what? This is not okay. Like I
Mhm.
we need to be okay with this and we need to be good at this for goodness sakes. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what started the code prep journey. Is at the time I was going back to my master's and I needed a project, and at the healthcare system I was working in, they were said, Susan, can we get our teams to, at least do compressions and, get the equipment there and get it on before we get there. Turns out that code blue practice was the number one most requested educational intervention by nurses
Wow.
worldwide.
I believe it actually. And I think to your point on, coming from the ER thinking everybody's born with a monitor, I started my career on a med surg floor. And I think it's it is actually, like, it's a little bit scary, when I look back on those times because, yeah, you don't have the luxury of just slapping a monitor on and, seeing what's going on with them. I mean, you have vitals cards, sure, but in the ER, if your patient's not, in a hallway and you have access to the monitor, you have that, "Oh, something feels off, I'm gonna at least just slap, like, tele leads on," have the blood pressure cuff cycling. Yes, when you're on the floor, you don't necessarily have that luxury all the time. So I could like it is more of like a little bit alarming to not have that almost like safety net to kind of confirm like that you're feeling a little bit weird about what's going on.
I agree, the way it's set up culturally, it's on that gut feeling that something's not right becomes a disruption to the flow of that patient care in a way that's very uncomfortable to the nurse, and it really does affect all the other patients, right? Because all of a sudden, there has to be a focus on this, and then we get this nerve-wracking, should I, shouldn't I, or, ooh, I'm not sure, I'm not right, and then we hesitate because anyway, there's lots of becauses. I mean, I have a very long list of the barriers of what causes fear in a nurse's heart and soul to ask for help. That is a long list.
Several
So,
reasons, yeah.
oh my gosh, it goes
Mm.
on and on and on. And so that was my first like, oh my God, what's do these? First of all, I was like, wait a minute. Do these people don't think like we do in critical care? Like these people, that's ridiculous. But I mean, meaning I always talk about this hamburger, or the hospital hamburger. So the ICU top bun, ER bottom bun, we're kind of expecting cardiac arrest and or respiratory emergencies, any kind of emergencies in these areas. Doesn't mean they're prepared for it, Colton, though. I
Yeah.
mean, we're not all that in a bag of chips. We're just
Mm.
humans too.
Uh-huh.
And there's usually just a few in each of those areas that really run to that kind of thing because they function better. Most
Uh-huh.
everybody else is like, oof, you know what? That really makes me feel awkward. That class we take once every 2 years does not prepare me
Uh-huh.
for knowing what to do in that moment.
It's true.
And so I didn't like how it made me feel. I didn't like how it made them feel. I didn't like how the critical care teams that when they arrived made everybody else feel because, and it wasn't that it's not there. There's no fault. It was just this
Mhm.
this soup of culture that has accumulated for years. First of all, we have this. So what I did was I decided I was going to study this. What the heck are we doing? Where's this gap? What is the response meant to look like? And what are we doing? What are hospital and healthcare systems around the world doing to prepare their teams for this? And it turns out not a whole lot. I mean, we all think we get this, it doesn't matter what the legacy American Red Cross, it doesn't matter who, but they do give us like, great foundational work studies and in theory, but how does that translate to practice? How does that translate to your team, your equipment, and your unit? It flat out doesn't.
Right.
And I get this unique perspective of being an in-hospital responder, as well as being the director of an American Heart Program, one of the largest, in our country for, I mean, 200 plus providers, BLS, ACLS, and PALS every week for 10 years. So I've seen
Yeah.
gazillions of people of every, from the trauma surgeon to the transporter. The class is the same, you know, and the bottom line is one size does not fit all. And
Mhm.
then you get in the hospital setting, they're always like, "Well, we have an education team, Susan. We have BLS, ACLS, and PALS." I'm like, "Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
man, right, yeah.
and
Yeah.
and then they'll say, "Well, we do mock codes quarterly." Okay, and I don't
Mm.
even get me into that because usually those are put on by critical care teams who again have this cultural mindset of they've got this. You don't. And they like to kind of, and I don't hate on them because I'm one of them. It's just, again, it's just been built up over time
Right,
because
right.
they're so used to arriving to the hot mess that they end up having to move people out of the way so that they can do the basics before they can get to the advanced measures because the basics haven't been done.
And it's just not the same. I mean, you see I mean, it's kind of like that reminds me of these, you know, I don't wanna say these poor people, but, you know, almost like these nursing students who went through school during the pandemic and really were only doing things in a simulation lab. It's just
Yeah.
sure, it's a foundation, like you're saying, it can't it, gets those wheels turning, it's at least there planting a seed, but it's very different than when you're in a real world scenario, and it's like then all those things are just jumbled up in your head when all you've seen are, like, simulations, right?
Yeah, and then I mean, like, shouldn't I? Like, we all know what to do, but are we empowered to really do it? Or should we, like, someone get help, get compressions, and then, wait for the superhero team to arrive to take over? So, I called 100% baloney. I hated it. I didn't like how it made me feel. Down the line, I almost even forgot, Colton, that we were doing this for patient outcomes. I mean, it really wasn't. It was, I did this because I wanted my colleagues to feel
Mhm.
confident.
Yeah.
And if you're confident that you can handle this part of being a nurse, you can handle
Yeah.
anything.
Right,
And you
and that will then subsequently trickle down to better patient outcomes. Yeah.
100%. I
Mhm.
mean, I tease because I really did it for the nurses.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
I
yeah.
ultimately did it for now every other professional that might respond. So, and the mock codes are cool, but they tend to bomb. They're quarterly. They're only beneficial to those who are there. So I mean, I studied all that. What kind of time and resources do they put into those programs? Bottom line is, it's not standard anywhere, and not everybody gets the benefit of it, right? Only if you were at that unit at that day. So we still have night shift, we have weekends, we have every single unit in the hospital. Cardiac arrest does not care what your job description is, and it does not care where in the hospital you are. In fact, it doesn't care if it's in your living room or at the grocery store or at the soccer field.
Yeah.
So we have to be ready and we have to be confident, and it always goes back to the basics. So going back to my master's, I was ready. I'd studied this from all over the world. I was really excited, put this thing together. At the very last second, I thought, we don't need another mock code program. We need a code preparation program. We need everyone to know what to do until we get there. 100%. Like ABC, we're done. Order some pizza. We got this.
Yeah.
And that's how CodePrep was born. So I studied everything. I shredded all the algorithms. I dumped them all. It's too much. It's less is more. Meat and potatoes. Who's rescuer 1, 2, and 3? Everybody. Everybody is 1, 2, and 3. Basic life support is the only prerequisite. Colton, we do have advanced, we do have pediatric, we do have AED, but quite often, even the advanced teams can't do those basics the way they're meant to be done because they're like, when are we going to get to the hard stuff? I'm like, it's not hard to change the rhythms and the algorithms. I mean, we can give enough epi to this table to get a pulse, right?
Right,
But that person's not going home. So I always say getting them to the ICU is cool, but getting them home is much cooler. And
right.
all the research in the whole wide world repeats it. Just the 2025 updates were out just a couple weeks ago.
Mhm.
Early compressions and early electricity. That's what wins the game.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what we do. We go into unit, anywhere healthcare is, and we after they have the initial education, we do the drills with them. They're 2 to 6 minute drills, so I call it a no complaint zone. Literally, it's 2 to 6 minutes for the 3 people to do their drills. It's hands on, and my teams are shocking in a minute or less every time.
Are you teaching, so this is not just nurses, this is
Everybody.
everybody in an outpatient setting, inpatient setting. Are you in anywhere that's not, like, healthcare? Like, I think about these things, like, even, like, flight attendants or something, like, are you in any kind of other area, or is this right now you're in healthcare systems only?
So it's a great question. Really, anywhere, like if you have a heart, you qualify. So we can we can do this anywhere. And I started out only nurses and only in healthcare. And frankly, we just expanded because just based on the needs. So it's always first come, first serve. We're doing a lot of outpatient right now, which is I'm having so much fun, Colton, outpatient, because every type of patient in the world that comes in the hospital goes to their doctor's office. They all wait until they're super sick because they know they have an appointment, in
Mhm.
10 days. So they
Yeah.
wait. And they walk into these, your asthma clinics or your every kind, every kind.
No, yeah.
And so we're having a lot of fun there. I've been consulting in dental practices.
Mm.
Lot of sedation happening in dental practice. You guys think about the scope of who's there, the scope of, it's not even licensure in some cases,
Mhm.
certificate, hygienists and stuff, no hate, but they need the
Yeah,
extra training.
yeah.
And anywhere that a drug is given, even just an antibiotic or that doesn't have, some of them have, some clinics and outpatients have, they give drugs, but they don't have drugs to respond. Or they have drugs to respond, but they don't have the scope of practice to use those drugs. And
Mhm.
all this stuff comes out of the woodwork when you show up. But outside of that, I've had some mining companies reach out. I mean, so it's starting to go everywhere. I do work, do work. I hate when I test myself when I say that. I can hear my mom. Recently, I work with the Citizen CPR Foundation. So we do community work, which is huge.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we train entire municipalities, and it's a free resource, by the way. So I owe whenever I wherever I teach nurses and or other healthcare professionals, it's like, I see you. You're
Mhm.
human. You
Yeah,
go home. You go into the
yeah,
community.
yeah,
So this really goes home into 80% of cardiac arrests, Colton, happen in your home.
yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
So, like, we gotta be ready. Like, no
Yeah.
one knows what to do until help arrives. The national average to first shock in the hospital setting is 9 minutes.
Wow. What
Let's
are
not get
the
into barriers. I mean, like, "Whoa."
well, what are the do you have the I don't know if you have this top of mind or if you know, but, like, so what are the statistics of from, like, when the person goes down and, if when there's so much time elapsed, like you said, 9 minutes to first shock, like, what is your goal then to first shock in your program? Do you guys have a goal time? And do you know, like, what the what percentage is the outcome better at that point if you're hitting those marks?
Oh, okay. So, when they like time is brain,
Mhm.
every single second, every minute, 10%, you get 10% less chance of any of it, right? So
Mm,
every minute past the arrest. So, yeah, the gold standard, according to the American Heart for years, has been 2 minutes or less. In the community setting, it's meant to be 3 minutes. So they're actually creating what's like 3 to 4 minute cities. Some of the AED companies right now are being really creative and trying to get as many AEDs in the public so that no matter where you are, you should be within 3 minutes of an AED, right? Because it's stopping that crazy rhythm that's gonna save you. In the hospital, it's meant to be 2 minutes or less. So remember, we said 9-minute average, which means there's a 12 and 15-minute numbers out there and are outliers. So, time is brain. You're starting to lose brain cells, immediately at 2-minute mark. The cardiac arrest comes in like in three phases. The initial phase is you still have some electricity. So that's why we've got a shock in 2 minutes or less. It's like when you go out, we're still hope fibrillating. There's some juice. So you go out to try your car and you go to start it and you still got a little chink, chink. Like,
mhm,
okay, so you only have those first 2 minutes ish to get that electricity to slap some sense into that heart.
yeah,
The second phase, we're kind of now we're moving. So electricity is the most prominent, thing in those first 2 minutes. And then we move into the second phase where we start having a mismatch in our cardiac output, what's going in and what's going out.
mhm,
And so compressions is the only thing we've got at this point. And then the third phase, which starts at like minute 3 to 5, is I call it it's like the metabolic phase. So it's like the banana has the spots at this point. Like
yeah,
we're going out and there's not gonna who knows how much is less. Now only God knows, but it's in those very first 2 to 6 minutes that'll make or break that human's the rest of their life.
yeah, yeah. These are important points to make, and I've told this story before, and I always have. It always still makes me like feel so uncomfortable inside. But I think it's important to share with people, especially nurses, to make them not feel like like they're so crazy or things that they like they have like lapses in knowledge. But when I first transferred to the ER from my med surge job, I had still never really witnessed like a code, and I think when you're a nurse for a little bit, like you're almost like embarrassed to say that, and so then I was working, and I don't remember if I was actually still training or if I was on my own at this point. I think I was on my own at this point. And at that point, I think I had been actually part of codes, but I had never like been the first one there. And I had a patient, and I remember looking, so for some reason the monitor didn't actually go off. But I remember looking up, seeing, oh my God, like the heart rate was like in the 20s or something. Ran into the room, patient was unresponsive. I had like called, we had Voceras. I don't know if you ever used Vocera. I had called for help, and our we called them Zoomers, our resource nurse for the department came in, and I had already like checked the pulse, but I hadn't done anything. And this had been, it hadn't this had been seconds, maybe like 30 seconds. But she comes in, and I'm just kind of like frozen, right? Like that flight, fight or flight or freeze. I was frozen. And she was like, I remember she just whispered to me, she's like, you should probably start compressions. And it's just, those moments of where you're just like, like you're saying, like, these things, like you should be doing this, like start compressions, but you're almost just like, you're hesitating. You're like, should I do this? Should I not? Like, is this really happening? Like, what, am I gonna start compressions? And they're gonna be like, what are you doing?
That's huge. I mean, that's everyone, everywhere. And you know what? You brought up so many important points in that example because let's go back to the very first part. The first part was, I'm a new nurse and I haven't even seen it. There's nurses who've been nurses for 30 years who've never seen a cardiac arrest, yet one day you're up. And then frankly, here's the other part of that being embarrassed. if you have been a nurse for any length of time, and like let's say you're the more senior nurse, just by age alone, there's an assumption that you got this. And they're more fearful than the new nurse because if they haven't seen it, they haven't done it. And now they have this, kind of ego thing that gets in our way. We can't help it. It's just an innate thing, to feel like, yes, I've been here long enough. And then they have this horror in their deep gut because they aren't confident and they haven't done it. So when I work with CodePRep, I all leaders have to play too. I'm like, I don't even come anymore. I used to do teams only because that's who I was there to serve, the teams. And then I realized it wasn't sustainable. So I train coaches. Now we do coaches and teams. Then I realized, you know what? Who's supporting my coaches? I need the leaders to support my coaches. Now I get a system level approval because if you're not going to support your leaders that support my coaches, that support our teams, that serve our patients, then we're not coming. But I say that to say that even in everywhere I go, leaders are doing their drills too. And you know why? I do it because I know they're scared too. They're scared. And we all giggle and laugh. And I got to tell you something cool. It is a lot of fun, because nobody knows how to put the pads on.
Mhm.
87%, this is my original research, excuse me, from my doctoral work. 87% had never ever handled they'd never turned it on. They've never touched it. They never handled it. They never put the pad. I mean, the pads come out and you're like, no, 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 it's totally okay. It's okay. We're gonna move them down a little bit. But I make the leaders do it too because they are secret squirrel, totally nervous and scared too. So then the teams and coaches love it when the leaders do the drills too, and everyone goes home feeling better. But then the next part of what you brought up was that freeze, the fight, flight, or freeze. Physiologically, your adrenaline is dumping in your system and it's preparing you to, and no one knows. You don't know until it's happening to you
Mhm.
whether you'll fight, be too loud and be too much. You'll flight, you're gonna run to the John instead of the patient, or
Mhm.
literally freeze. And I've seen all of it.
Yeah.
Happens to everybody.
So I think that's kind of what you're saying is the most important piece is just feeling like increasing your confidence level just even a little bit has to just it's just so much, better feeling. I know from again personal experience, like when you know what to do, you're not then using all your energy to like panic inside. Like you still may have that little panicky feeling, but like you know what to do. You feel confident, you've seen this before. So is that kind of like your mission with what you're doing is to just make people feel more comfortable? You arrive to the scene, you're the first person there, like you are going to know what to do and help will be there shortly.
Yeah, and we break it down literally to the I mean, I get it down like unlock the wheels, the handles on this side. Are you pushing it or are you pulling it? I make them touch everything. Every single person locks and unlock the wheels. They plug and unplug the defibrillator. They all turn it on. They all push the shock button, right? They analyze. I
Mhm.
teach the analyze function. They all place the pads and they all roll and do the backboard. So everybody does rescue 1, 2, and 3. They rotate. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 3, 3 becomes 1. It's the first essential moves in the first 2 to 6 minutes. And everyone does it until the point, literally, they're giggling. They've got it. The first time, it's usually kind of junk. The second time, they're like, wait a minute, we can be better. And the third time, they're like, rock star. And they every single time they're like, "Is that it?" I'm like, "That's it." I'm like, "Stop making more of this." The critical care people make it be like, "If you don't know what is this rhythm and what goes with this drug," and everyone's like, "I don't know." Like nobody knows rhythms, but guess what? You don't have to know them, Colton. The machine knows. That's why we spend all that money on that machine, that expensive machine. It knows. So if they can recognize the problem, literally call for help, begin compressions. That's Respire 1. Respire 2 is the closest person to hear Rescuer 1, and their first job is to support Rescuer 1. We got you. I see you. Slow it down. Speed it up. What can I do to make those compressions better? Lower the bed, lower the rail, get the pillow out. Unschlunk the airway. All we do is open the airway.
Mhm.
And Rescuer 3 is whoever is closest to that machine. CNAs, rocking it. PT, OT, everyone who has basic life support plays, right? So if you're
Mhm.
right there, you're grabbing a cart and bringing it. I try to remind everybody that grabbing the car, everything to save a life is on the outside of the crash cart. So guess who can grab it? Everybody.
Everyone, yeah. Yeah.
Everybody. And we even have our non-licensed play. They don't touch the defibrillator, in a healthcare setting, but they do. They can get the backboard. They can call for help. They can do compressions.
Mm.
They can place pads. So we include everybody. And then we go a little bit upstream and I teach a green, yellow, red. I actually take it from pre-hospital. A green, yellow, red, I call a visual acuity, Colton, and it's like thumbs up or thumbs down. And this is to help that decide to call, like that hesitation. So we
Mhm.
do it's green, yellow, red, thumbs up or thumbs down, sick or not sick, RPMs, respiration, perfusion, mental status, good or bad. And
Yeah.
if it's bad, you have permission to call.
Mhm.
Whether it's your MET, whether it's your, nurse stat, whether it's your rapid, hopefully before they're at red. But anyway, and so it's very empowering. And when the leaders and the systems say that we're bringing this program in, They now know they literally have permission. If it's a thumbs down, they're gonna call.
Mhm.
And it
Yeah.
really builds great relationship with the rapid response teams. Rapid response teams don't wanna show up and be jerks. They
Yeah.
they really
Yeah.
don't. It's just, culturally, and this is not everywhere by a long shot,
Yeah.
you know? It's just that it happens, and so
Right, right.
if they were to show up, and my goal with our teams is to roll out that the red carpet, compressions are going, pads are on. Frankly, we've shocked 2 and 3 times before rapid arrives, our code teams arrive, a lot. It happens. They have time to give report. No one's run away, right? So they're who's the nurse is this patient, and then it gave a little S bar. They hand them the keys, and then they go
Yeah.
order pizza.
Yeah.
So
Hand
and
over the baton.
rapids are so happy, right? Because all the basics have been done, and now they can move on to advanced measures.
Well, I think that alleviates the stress too for, because like you're saying, when the rapid response team gets there, generally they're not trying to be mean, but
No,
you have to put yourself in the shoes of that team when you're showing up and it's a hot mess. Like you have to have some level of like, okay, get out of the way. Like let us just do what we need to do and catch up. Kind of. Also, think that that's great. Like kind of what you're saying, because I think everybody's been there. Whether it was when you were a nursing student, a nursing aide, a new nurse. When the first time somebody says go grab the code cart, and you're like, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I don't even know how to push that. I don't know how to unlock the wheels. And it's like those seconds matter. And then, before you know it, you're there at the code cart shaking it to try to get it to move. And it's just like those little simple things that you're like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. How do I not? Those are like the thoughts that go through your head, right? Just because it's foreign. And then it's like the adrenaline's pumping and it's a very stressful situation. And it's just like, how can I be like, go to somebody and be like, I don't know how to move the code cart, like that's so important. Just people don't, I think, realize till they're maybe doing this kind of training, like how important it is to just get your hands on things, right? It's like a new doctor in like, dice like an anatomy class with a cadaver and just like touching things. Like you just get familiar with things like that, right?
you have to touch it.
Yeah,
You have to
yeah.
touch it. You remember from being a new nurse, if you don't understand how to what's in how to get your stuff in your supply room, you're
Mhm.
done. Like
Mhm.
the most
Mhm.
important room, you got to understand how to use your tools. Where are
Mhm.
they? How do we handle them? And how can you know algorithms and drugs if you don't know how to unplug it
Mhm.
and turn it on?
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, literally. So in my doctoral work, and this is why I do what I do today, because I don't want them going home feeling that way. I can't. And we know what we do. We tuck it down in there. We go home to our families and our loved ones, and we have dinner, and we know what we're thinking inside,
Mhm.
and it does not feel well. They
Mhm.
might not come back from just this alone. And
Right.
so that I was calling no on that. There's just no way. So for the longest time, Colton, I did what I called code prepping in dark alleys, because they loved it. I would just go and do the drills, and they would stand taller, and they would literally say to me, "Are you kidding me? That's it?" I'm like, "Okay, there's a cheat sheet on the front of every defibrillator. Step one, step two, and step three. It's not the
Yeah.
scary, beast that you need like a Hail Mary when you pass every morning, it's
Mhm.
actually not such a bad deal. But until you handle it and use it, you don't know it. So we literally break it down to unlocking, unplugging, pushing slash pulling. Where do we put the cart in this room? Because you know what that is, right? When the insanity shows up, the half the world shows up. They're like the smokers that got kicked out of a restaurant in the hallways. They're in the they're everywhere, and it's like, what is going on here, guys?
Mhm.
So we know right where we're gonna put the crash cart in this particular room. We
Mhm.
code prep that space, and they've done it. They do it once a month. They do it once a month, 2 to 6 minutes apiece. When it happens, it's so smooth and so easy, and I know I measured self-efficacy. That's all I cared about. They were like, "Everyone wants numbers, Colton, especially when it comes to resuscitation. We want the numbers." I'm like, "If you build their confidence, the numbers will come." Like, we have enough numbers we have to worry about. We
Yeah,
have enough
yeah.
to chart. I just want this to be I want them to use their hands, their eyes, and their brains.
Mhm.
Especially in the AI world and all this stuff that's
Mhm.
coming in now. I'm like, "Nope, guess what? Someone's hands still have to get on that chest. Someone has to grab it and bring it to the room, and we have to be able to work together as a team." So, I'll wrap this up with where we are in 2025 with the new updates that just came out. I mean, the highest and best suggestions from the top resuscitation people in the world, is what a lot of healthcare systems have adapted these days for their American Heart training, which is even if they do the quarterly, they do the quarterly. So it's completely online, right? We take the course online at home in our jammies. Then we show up to this computer avatar in a closet somewhere in the hospital doing compressions, very difficult compressions, and airway only, right? And somehow that's supposed to translate to the radiology suite, the echo lab, the sleep study room, the med surge.
Right.
I mean, my goodness gracious, endo, right?
Yeah.
How does that translate? There's no defibrillator or AED. There's no pads. There's no backboard. There's no team. And who's messing with airway? I can't. Who? I'm sorry, who? We're not very good at that. Nobody's good at that unless you're respiratory. So, this is a huge gap in my mind because I live in this gap between what we're saying. We're all certified. So you have a provider card. Somehow that means you're prepared for the 2 to 6 minutes. I don't think
Yeah, like, what are you gonna do? Pull out your ACLS card and slap it on their chest? Like, that's not right, it's not gonna do anything.
so. Just a minute now. I'm gonna get the algorithm.
Yeah, yeah, get your little booklet out and read it. I just think it's so, like, it's so true, obviously, and this makes, like, so much sense. I mean, I think about, okay, even if I went to grab the environmental services cart, I wouldn't know what to do with it until I, mess with it a little bit. It's just it's something but I think, obviously, when you're in a code situation, it's somebody's, it's life or death, so that's just where I think the fumbling and the freaking out and the panicking comes from, or the fight, flight, or freeze. So, what is the feedback you've gotten from these facilities? Have you gotten, a lot of, positive feedback and testimonials of, like, wow, you've really changed the culture of our unit, our hospital, our clinic, and just being prepared in these situations? Like, have you gotten that kind of feedback? And what are people saying to you as far as, like, having, like, that readiness in those emergent situations?
Yeah, so that's another great question. I'll go back to was saying I was code prepping in dark alleys because they just kept asking for it, right? So the teams are asking for it, the teams are asking for it, and then there was always a passionate supervisor or director, like, we can't wait for the system to get on board here. Like, we just need it. Like, our teams are begging for it. Literally every survey of what can we do for you, nurses? What can we do for you? They're like, we want more code training. They're like, anything else? So I just would do it and do it and do it, do it, and then I started to not be able to keep up because I was going to different systems and different places because it's not rocket science at all. And they love it. So they want more. They would go into their yearlies with their supervisor and say, what can we do for you? We want more co-prep. We want more co-prep. So I've never had it. I shouldn't even have I ever had anything negative? I don't think I've ever had a negative other than maybe something that could support them better that my team and I will then create based on, like for instance, we just in outpatient offices, we're a lot of outpatients, right? And you know what? They don't have a standard charting document like we do and I was like, what? So
Mhm.
the more we do it, it's always positive feedback. Their people love it. The coaches love being coaches. The teams love being teams. Team members can become coaches. There isn't any prerequisite. You don't have to be a leadership to be a coach. You can just want to feel better yourself to become a coach. It's just a bit more training. But the bottom line is we just are moving into Canada, looking at South America right now. And 2026, I'm in 5 to 7 of the top healthcare systems in the United States. We're have our tour set up right now because it works. We were doing a lot in imaging areas. So that's the heart of every hospital. Code blue CT, code blue CT. They're there. CT, MR, and echo. There's a lot more contrast media going into our patients for a lot of imaging. So we're like into imaging areas. It works. It's a little bit of a lift at the beginning just because you have to have the online foundational, which is not long. And then we do on-site workshops to get our coaches up to speed. And then we schedule them quarterly because of
Okay.
turnover and because once you do it, everybody else wants to do it too.
Yeah.
So it's made for systems. So we have reaction ready that's code prep, custom code prep for imaging areas, and then code prep is for the entire hospital, inpatient, outpatient, ambulatory. Like you said, every dental offices, it you know it could be anywhere if you have
Anywhere.
a heart
Yeah.
pathology.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Do nurses work for you as far as, like, going out and doing these trainings, or how do you do that?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm just hiring. So I just hired my first chief clinical nurse. Pardon me, Dave Perry. He's awesome.
Mm.
He is now the first me. So I'm so grateful. And then I have a handful of people that have been helping me locally. But now that we have this giant tour in 2026 and moving, into another country and all that. So we are starting great, I'm glad you asked, it's exciting. Dave is actually in charge of our master instructor program. So we are starting a RescueRN master instructor program in early 2026. So there's on-site teaching. It's super fulfilling and a lot of fun. And you don't have to be, the rock star, ACLS, ICU, PALS, critical care person. You just have to have a love for teaching nurses, understand that we're building self-efficacy. Like our whole goal, it's a mindset thing. We are not there to prove that we know how to do it and you don't. We're there to
Mhm.
really lift them up and make them rock stars. When we leave, they're high-fiving. I mean, it's a lot of fun. So yeah.
Amazing. Cool.
hiring in early 2026.
And where do people find that?
So there it will be coming out on socials and in LinkedIn, and we're just transitioning all of our stuff, rescuern.com, and we have our app coming out in early 2026 too to help support all these efforts. But they can find us on LinkedIn is great, and then rescuern.com.
Amazing. All right, Susan. Well, thank you so much. Any parting words with the audience? Anything that we didn't cover that you want to leave them with, or
It's okay to be afraid. I think
yeah.
we all have to. It's okay to be afraid. Young nurse, old nurse. If you're not, then there's something the matter. I mean, when
Hmm.
someone's trying to die in front of you,
Scary.
please give yourself some grace. I think
Hmm.
my grade is just please give yourself some grace. Don't ever feel less than. That is outlawed in my world. You are
Mm.
or just a. I'm just a med
Hmm.
surg nurse. I'm just a. No, we outlaw that too. You can use your hands, your eyes, and your brains. You don't need all that advanced stuff. So I'm just gonna say, give yourself some grace and give us a call. We'll make sure you and your team are ready no matter.
Love that. Well, thank you so much, Susan. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Colton.